Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and just like Joe Pesci says in My Cousin Vinny, we're going to have Utes on tonight. We're going to have Shacey Marr and Greeley Estep and Quinn Leslie from Greyhound Rodeo. We're going to have Michaela Garvin and Kiki Sapiga from Greyhound Volleyball. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound football played up a level on Saturday, playing Division I Tarleton State, and all I can say after watching Tarleton State, they're pretty good. We also had Greyhound soccer. The Greyhound ladies were playing in San Antonio, lost a 3-0 decision to St. Ed's. And Greyhound cross country on Saturday was running at the Texas Tech Open, and our Greyhound ladies finished a very respectable 10th. Well, that is going to wrap up the Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out, and I'll bring in my first guest from Greyhound Rodeo right now. Welcome back to the Sportslook, and a privilege to bring to the set of Sportslook 3 members of the College Days Rodeo Team Champion Squad from Eastern New Mexico University. We've got Shacey Marr, we've got Greeley Estep, and we've got Quinn Leslie. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, Shacey, we'll start out with you. Where are you from, and what got you to the rodeo squad at Eastern New Mexico University?
I'm from Tularosa, New Mexico. I came here as a freshman. Albert was a very persistent recruiter. The campus was beautiful, and I had heard that the education was just as good and a great rodeo team. So found myself here.
Very good. Well, Greeley, ask you the same question.
I'm from Bainbridge, Indiana. I am a sophomore this year, and I visited for the first time last fall. And I told my parents that I really liked it, and I thought I'd like to transfer here, and I came here to better my education, and I love the facility, and Albert's been really good to us.
So where were you before Eastern?
I was at a junior college in the same region.
Very good. And Quinn will ask you the question, where are you from, and what was the process that got you here?
I'm from High River, Alberta, Canada. I used to go to another JUCO in the same region, and then basically just had an idea that I always wanted to go to Eastern from after that, so.
Quinn, let's ask you the question. Did you always love horses? Did you always love rodeo, or was it something you kind of picked up as you went along?
No, I was more or less born into it. I don't think I really had a choice, so, yeah.
And really, I may be incorrect, but I don't usually think rodeo when I think of Indiana. I think more like basketball. What was the process that got you involved in rodeo?
My parents actually showed livestock, and then I went into rodeo, and I've continued to show livestock, but rodeo kind of was my favorite, so.
Well, obviously, for people who know Tularosa, New Mexico, they know that girls basketball has been just dominant in that community. Did you play a little growing up, or was rodeo always your sport down in the basin?
Well, I did play basketball, volleyball, track, and softball, and I also rodeoed, but I was also born into that. My grandparents both rodeoed, my parents both rodeoed, so.
Well, obviously, we would love to have you on at any time, but especially after last weekend, because you won the College Days Rodeo, the largest rodeo in the Southwest. So, Shacey, just now that you've had a couple of days to think about it, what was going through your mind when you finally realized your team was going to win?
Well, I actually didn't really know because we hadn't heard anything. So we were just kind of waiting. I thought maybe, someone else had won it or not, but I couldn't see how we didn't win it because I thought we had done really well. But it was pretty cool.
And Greeley, I asked you the same question. What was going through your head when you found out that you were the champs?
I was really surprised. I think it's kind of a big deal because we're one of the smaller teams, but there's really big teams in our region. So it was really cool and really exciting that we could pull that off.
And Quinn, ask you the same question. What was going through your head when you found out that Eastern had been the team champs?
Well, that's kind of along with what Shacey said. It was just we knew we did good figured we'd be at the top, but yeah, we're a smaller team, so we didn't really know we'd rack up that many points between us. So, yeah.
And if I understand it correctly, you three ladies were the three that scored the points that got your team the championship.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, that is highly commendable. So, a good team effort. We actually, courtesy of Eastern New Mexico University Rodeo, we actually have highlights from the rodeo. So, what we're going to do is we're going to run that highlight reel, and as you watch, in a couple of cases yourselves, in a couple of cases you watch your teammates do the rodeo. Just walk us through and talk about technique and what is involved in that particular event. So, let's cue up the highlight reel right now.
We're goat tying here, if you don't know. So you get off a horse or run, as you see, run to a goat, and then you have to tie it by 3 legs and hope it stays tied for 6 seconds.
The fastest time wins, and you put your hands up to signal the time to stop.
And are the goats usually pretty compliant about just staying there?
It depends.
You hope so.
I hope so.
Okay, I've got another question coming up here as well. Oh, now I got a different event.
This is the team roping. The header, which is on the left, is supposed to rope the front end of the steer while the heeler comes and ropes the back end.
Didn't quite work out that way.
This is barrel racing, and we have 3 barrels set in the arena, and you can go to the left or the right one first, and the fastest time wins here also.
And really, how long have you been riding the horse that you're riding right now?
That is my horse Harley, and I have had her for 11 years. I've been running her since junior rodeo.
So what would you say is the average length that a person rides the same horse? Is 11 years like really extraordinarily long, or?
That's a
Generally,
pretty
That's
long
pretty
time, I
long,
would say.
yeah. You'd hope to ride them that long.
Mm-hmm.
This is the calf roping. So you rope the neck of the calf, and then you run down the rope and tie. Same thing, you flank the calf and then tie it by 3 legs.
It's similar to
Boys goat tying, basically.
Mhm. And Bo actually had the best performance of the Greyhound guys.
Yes, in the
Yes,
steer
sir.
wrestling.
So which is more important? Is it more important to have a fast horse in barrel racing or one that's more maneuverable?
Fast one. You can
Fast.
always
Yeah.
teach them to move.
Yeah.
You can, yeah, okay.
If they're not fast, it's not going to work.
How much of a deduction is it to actually knock the barrel over?
5 seconds.
And 5 seconds, an eternity.
Yeah, that
Yes,
takes you
sir.
out of the running.
That'll
pretty
take
fast.
you out of the running pretty fast, exactly. So we're seeing Hannah for a second time. Is it common for you to compete in both events, or are some of the athletes just like one event people?
It depends on the person. A lot of us girls like do more than one event because it helps you in the all-around race. But then there is certain girls that just stick to one event.
Speaking of which, we've got Greeley back for a second time. Yeah, at a disadvantage there because the goat was actually on the ground. That's not a well-trained goat. So I've got to ask the question as I'm watching the goat tying, how do you learn how far away from the goat to get off the horse? I mean, is it just instinct, or is there like a rule of thumb?
For me, it's a feel instinct.
I think it helps getting off in different length arenas and being different places, and that kind of helps you gauge better whenever you get somewhere new.
For sure.
And Quinn, let me ask you a question. How much of it is technique and how much of it is just kind of an intuitive sense of what you're doing out there? How much of it can be coached?
I'd say it's like 50-50, honestly. Like you can go to as many clinics as you want or something and learn, but you do kind of have to have like a natural talent for it or have like a natural instinct of when to do stuff at the right time and kind of thing like that. And I guess it depends on the event too.
So obviously things were thrown out of whack by COVID. How much of an effect did it have on you ladies personally in terms of your rodeoing career?
Well, that was my senior year of high school, so we actually stopped rodeoing. So I didn't get my full season, but we still did compete at nationals, so that was nice because Oklahoma's a little more free than New Mexico. But I was really happy with Oklahoma for opening up their doors and allowing us to come in and still compete, even though New Mexico didn't have the strength to do that, I guess. So that was really nice.
Well, Greeley, I'll ask you the question, how much did COVID affect you on a personal level?
It was my junior year of high school, and we also didn't get to rodeo. I high school rodeo for Illinois, and we didn't get to for Indiana my junior year. But I didn't get to rodeo, but then we did get to go to nationals, and that was fun that we could all get back together and kind of have a good time again.
Well, and Quinn, obviously you were experiencing this from north of the 49th parallel in Canada. What sort of an effect did this have on you?
Well, I was actually in my freshman year of college.
Oh,
so I was in Big Spring, Texas at the time, and it was my freshman year, and we just got cut short at our spring break is when everybody got sent home. And so we just didn't get to finish out our college season. But then that year we did get our eligibility back for another year to continue college rodeoing. So.
Well, we will point out for people that may not be familiar with rodeo that there is a fall season. You have 5 rodeos in the fall, then 5 in the spring. You're competing as individuals, but you're also competing to try and go as a team. So I'd like to think starting off the year with a win, and you were an individual champ. So I'd like to think things are pointing in the right direction.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Well, ladies, a privilege. I mean, as you said, we're one of the smallest programs that competes, and yet everybody will remember that in 2022, it was the Eastern Women's Rodeo that won the College Days Rodeo. So congratulations and good luck this weekend in beautiful Alpine, Texas at the Sul Ross Rodeo.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview. We'd once again like to thank ENMU Greyhound Rodeo for supplying the footage that we saw. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set and we'll bring in 2 players from volleyball right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we bring to the set 2 young ladies with some familiarity with Sportslook, former guest Michaela Garvin and a former member of the Sportslook crew, Kiki Sapiga. Ladies, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, in case people don't remember, Michaela, when you were on a year ago, what is your background, where are you from, and what was the process that got you to Eastern?
I'm actually from San Antonio, Texas, and the process that got me to Eastern is a little bit different than others because I actually had a ridiculous amount of family members play sports here, including my mom and dad. So coming back here was kind of like a return to home almost. It's always been, I took my first steps in Portales, so I mean, this is just kind of like a full circle moment.
And I will point out that I felt really old when you showed up on campus because both your parents were students of mine.
Yes.
So I've been around a long time. And Kiki, if people can't remember, what was the story that got you here?
So I was born and raised in Long Beach, California. And my older sister, Ray, she came to Eastern in 2018. She also played for Coach Poyer. She graduated last May and finished her 4 years of playing volleyball. When she came to Eastern, I was in my senior year of high school, still looking for a school to recruit to. And so she basically gave Coach Poyer my name. He reached out to me. I emailed him back. After him watching me come to play, I guess I was good enough. He offered me a scholarship, and here I am.
Michaela, for people here again that may not remember the interview, was volleyball always your sport when you were growing up, or did you play other ones and then concentrate on volleyball?
I played every sport. I did everything. I did gymnastics, pretty much everything you could think of, I did. The problem was that I'm very picky when it comes to like, I don't love to run, that type of thing. And basketball and volleyball were the main two contenders because that's what everybody else played. So my mom was like, you can do volleyball and, be like me, or you can do basketball and do a lot of running. And I was like, oh, you know what? Volleyball it is. So yes, that's what.
Moms usually know.
Yes, yes.
Good advice.
Yes.
Well, Kiki will ask you the same question. What was your association with sports growing up?
A little bit similar to Kia. I played a little bit of everything, but my dad doesn't say it counts because it was YMCA sports. So it was like parks and recreational sports. But same thing. Once Ray, my older sister, started playing competitive club volleyball, I would sit at her practices, get bored. My parents signed me up, and here I am 14 years later.
There we go. Michaela, obviously, we know how this story is going to come out because you were destined to come to Eastern New Mexico. But still, Coach Poyer and the ladies who were on the team at the time had to make a convincing case. So what really was it outside of the fact you had a family tradition with Eastern? What was it that really sold you on Eastern?
Coming into town, like I've been here, I've been around, but coming into town as a young adult, I really felt like this was a great place for me to grow. Felt like home. I have like weird ties to it, obviously, already. But coming here, meeting the people, creating the bonds and the friendships that I have, it really was the best decision I could have ever made.
And Kiki, I'll ask you the same question. What was there outside of the fact that you got offered a scholarship, meaning out sister here? What was the next best selling point of Eastern?
I had obviously my sister. That was a really big push for me. I've been dependent on her pretty much my whole life, so I couldn't imagine going to college on my own. But on top of that, I also had two cousins. They played football here. They both graduated. And then I also had a close family friend from home. We grew up together. We both played high school volleyball together. So I wouldn't say I had family ties like Kia, but I had a little bit of a sense of community. So it was easy for me to make that decision to come here.
Very good. Well, obviously, you ladies got off to an incredibly fast start this year. You were 9-3 going into last weekend, but Lone Star Conference is tough, and I'm sure the experience coming out of Friday night and Saturday noon is you got to bring your A game every day.
Always,
Yes,
always, for sure. I think we definitely learned that after this past weekend.
Well, we don't need to just speculate about that because we've actually got a highlight reel. So I'll ask my technicians to cue up the highlight reel. And ladies, please walk us through it.
Awesome.
So this is our game against Oklahoma Christian. This was our Friday night match. We actually played them in the LSC crossover tournament, which was the weekend before this game. And we beat them in 4 at that game, and then they came back and got us this time.
Yes. I don't know about you, but I think what I took away was I think Oklahoma Christian made adjustments after we played them the first time. They just made adjustments. They knew our go-tos. They knew our spots on defense, and so I feel like that's what allowed them to be successful over us Friday night. Was they just made the adjustments, and we kind of did our same game plan that allowed us to be successful the first time, but because they made those adjustments the second time around, we weren't able to keep up.
The one thing, because I'm actually sitting there down on press row doing the live stream for the Lone Star Conference, and you had more kills than they did, but the problem was you had more errors than they did.
Definitely.
Mhm.
That's something we caught on to them. The first time we played them was, although they may not be, in my opinion, as big as us or as physical at the net offensively, they don't make a lot of errors.
Mhm.
They keep it pretty tight. They're scrappy. And I feel like we're used to our big kills. Whenever I see Kia get set, I'm expecting a kill. And so with them, they were just digging up our best kills, like I said, and being able to get the ball back over. And I don't think we're a scrappy team on defense. I think we play pretty technical. And so when we play teams that are able to scrap and get those balls up,
Sometimes we freak out.
yeah, or we're caught off guard.
Yeah,
a
we're
little
caught
bit.
off guard.
Yeah.
Because we do have a few like very, very scrappy people on the team.
Yes.
But collectively, like, it's very difficult
yes.
to be scrappy.
yes.
But I would say over the long haul, you'd rather be technically proficient because that's something you can rely on every night, while the scrappiness may not be there.
For sure, for sure.
For sure.
I think there's definitely the pros and cons. Clearly, we saw the scrappiness worked for them, but I think defense is our strong suit. So
Mhm.
I say we continue to play our technical defense, and I think it'll make us successful in the long run.
So what was the difference? And obviously we're watching University of Arkansas Fort Smith now. What was the difference between those two squads?
I think Fort Smith is big. They're
Mhm.
fast. Their setter runs a really fast offense compared to Oklahoma Christian. The night before, they had just beat Lubbock Christian in 5, I
Mhm.
believe. So that was obviously
They were coming off of a big,
exactly an
win.
emotional big win. So I think just those first 2 sets, they were still kind of waking up.
yes.
Speaking from experience, last season we beat Commerce in 5 sets, and that was a big emotional win for us.
Mhm.
Then the next day we went over and played UT Tyler, and we were drained pretty much of our
Yes.
energy. So I could kind of see how Fort Smith did the same thing.
Because those 5 match sets or the set matches are ridiculous.
Yes.
So tiring.
Yes. Physically, mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally exhausting.
Well, I'm looking back at last year and the fact that last year you won your first Lone Star Conference match, and then you lost a bunch, and then you had to really turn it on and win a whole bunch to be able to go to the playoffs. So it's just volleyball is a sport of momentum.
It is. It really is.
Definitely.
You never know what's gonna happen.
For sure.
But that's what makes it so fun.
Yes.
So let me ask you, I mean, obviously there are returners coming back from last year, but there are some newcomers. And if you had to say the most, maybe she's not a newcomer, maybe she's somebody that was on the team and just didn't really get that many appearances or just wasn't playing at that high level. Who's been the most pleasant surprise for you so far?
I have really, really, really been impressed with Hetzi. She's our new libero.
Yes.
She is everywhere. She's really tiny, so she can pick up any ball.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll be watching and I'm like, oh, that's gonna hit the ground. She gets it.
Yes.
It comes out of nowhere, and it's really fun to watch. And she's just a dynamic player.
Yes.
Really glad we have her.
She's
And-
also very level-headed
Mhm.
on the court. She makes one mistake. That's the only mistake.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to phase her, which as a libero, going back there and serve receive, it's really difficult to do. So I really appreciate having Hetzi this year.
And I'm gathering that I was mispronouncing. So the G is pronounced as an H. So it's
Yes.
Gethsemane
Yes.
rather than Gets. Okay. Well,
Yes.
good to know because I'm actually going to get a chance to do a couple more of your matches. Michaela, you are obviously a student athlete. What are you majoring in and what do you hope to do in the future?
I'm majoring in communications, actually, and I'm hoping to work in the NFL. I want to be a content creator for a specific NFL team or like the ESPN, maybe a sideline reporter. I haven't really decided yet.
And Kiki?
I'm kind of on that same avenue. I'm majoring in communications. Actually just added another emphasis. So broadcast journalism has always been my main thing, but this semester I went ahead and added public relations. So definitely want to go into sports journalism, sideline reporting, ESPN, all that kind of stuff. But recently I've been leaning more into sports PR and doing stuff behind the scenes.
And of course, for people that are longtime viewers, they will remember that you were actually the host of High School Spotlight.
Yes.
So,
Hope they remember.
oh, I'm sure. How could anybody forget? So, Well, ladies, obviously, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Just quality young people, and obviously both com majors. So we're all really proud of you here over in the KNW studio. Good luck the rest of the way. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the chance that I'm actually going to get to broadcast a couple of your matches down the road.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
having us.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. As we found out earlier in the episode, the Greyhound Women's Rodeo Squad won the College Days Rodeo. Last time the Greyhound ladies had won had been in 2016, but I think you'd have to say that they'd established a pretty good tradition. Because if you go back 50 years ago exactly, 1972, the Greyhound ladies won their very first College Days Rodeo. So that is definitely a tradition that they have established. Well, that is going to wrap up an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Shacey Marr, Greeley Eastep, and Quinn Leslie from Greyhound Rodeo, Michaela Garvin, and Kiki Sapiga from Greyhound Volleyball. I had a veteran floor crew led by Mr. Dennis. So for all of those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.